Hey guys, has fear ever held you? Oh, I'm way over here on the left. Has fear ever held you back in your trading? Maybe it's being hesitant to enter a trade, or maybe you're worried about losing profits, or has it ever stopped you from getting started in the first place? Well, tonight we are going to tackle this issue head on as we talk about where's God when I'm scared to trade. By the way, let me know in the chat where you are watching from. And if this is your first time being here, this is our Sunday night Bible study for traders episode of the Godly Trading Podcast. We're here every Sunday night at 5 o'clock Central. And this is the one where we do a deep dive into the world's best trading manual and all of the myriad of ways that it can help us become a successful trader. All right, so we got some comments. Some folks have dropped in from where they're coming in from. We've got somebody from Jacksonville, Florida, and somebody from Washington State. Thank you for being here. Wednesday nights, by the way, you'll see that, hey, we got Godly Trading Podcast Sundays and Wednesday. So Sunday nights is the Bible study for traders. Wednesday night is a little more Boomer, North Carolina. Wednesday nights is a little more trading nuts and bolts, if that's a word. And by the way, stay tuned to the end. This coming Wednesday night is going to be an interesting topic. I'm going to promo at the end of this episode what we're doing Wednesday night, and it's one that you might be interested about. Spoiler alert: it's Battle of the Sexes kind of a thing. But anyway, we're not talking about that tonight. Tonight we're talking about fear, and honestly, fear is one of the primary emotions that not only can hold us back as traders, but it causes us to quit. I say it in the book all the time that the doubt and discouragement are the twin killers of traders. But they start with that emotion. Doubt leads to fear also. And what's amazing to me is that there are several different types of fear out there. And they affect us in different ways as traders. And what I mean by different ways as traders. It's funny that I say all the time that Satan has just the one bullet in his gun. Hey, did God really say? But it's amazing how that one element of doubt or the one element of worry or fear comes at us from a different standpoint. And we're really going to be talking about this a lot Wednesday night, that even we as different types of traders from day traders to swing traders, men and women, are attacked in different ways. Fear is a liar. I believe that's a Zach, whatever his last name is, song. Zach Thomas, Zach Snyder, Zach somebody. Not Zach Snyder. He doesn't sing. Anyway, so I want to take a look at some different areas of fear in trading and how they, Zach Brown, thank you for that. I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to read the comment until the producer puts it up. Zach Brown, thank you for that. So first and foremost, we have the fear of losing money. And if you think, well, that's kind of obvious. What was interesting here in looking at the biblical examples, there's a direct one. Some of these are inferred and interpretive, but there is a direct example here. And this is one that's my favorite trading related passage or story. I hate using the word story because it somehow makes it seem like it's not as real. By the way, somebody let me know in the chat if the audio sounds like it's supposed to sound. I've got a new base for the thing, and I'm still trying to figure out just exactly where to put the thing. I'd like to put it right around here, but anyway, let me know if the audio is good enough. Good enough is good enough. So the most applicable, I think, passage in the Bible about trading, in fact, one that I have done an entire video on, the world's, oh, thank you very much. It was such a bad video. It's the video on my channel that has the highest, what's called click-through rate. People read the title and click through. It's this trading in the Bible, and it is so bad. Oh, if you want to go watch it, you're welcome to it. It's like death by PowerPoint, one of those faceless voiceovers. Anyway, but the passage we're all familiar with is the parable of the talents, and it's found in both Matthew and in Luke. And in all of them, in both of them, various people have various sums, but there's always a guy at the end who only has a small amount, whether it's one or whether it's two. Matthew and Luke, I think both of them say the guy has one. The other guys go out and they trade. And they double their money. 100% return. This guy, out of fear, says, in verse, this is Matthew chapter 25 and verse 25. The master is saying, hey, where's my money? And he goes, here it is. I wrapped it in a handkerchief, buried it in the ground. Here you go. He's like, why? The other two, right? Or 5, depending on which gospel, made money. Why did you bury it in the ground? He says, this is from the ESV. We had an interesting conversation in our Discord channel this past week about different translations. I typically read from the NKJV, the New King James, and I typically write from the ESV. Anyway, ESV here says, Matthew 25:25. I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. And he talks about, oh, you're a hard man who reaps where you did not plant, and yada yada. I was afraid of you, and I was afraid of what might happen. So I didn't even do anything. And he, bless his heart, Jesus, who is telling the story, says that the owner who comes back and calls him a wicked servant. You wicked servant. He was operating out of fear and let fear stop him from doing anything. Because what was the command that they were given? They were told to do business until he came back. And is burying your money in the ground doing business? No, not at all. It is the opposite of doing business. So he was not only fearful, he was disobedient. He let fear drive him into complete disobedience. And I think we find this often, or let me ask the question to all of you. Have you ever had the fear of what might happen in your trading hold you back from entering a trade or entering a market or entering a new account? Maybe you're with a prop firm and you say, well, I'm afraid of what's going to... Has fear of losing money ever caused you to trade in a way that you otherwise wouldn't? Let me know in the chat if you have any personal experience with this brand of fear. Now, by the way, I'm not just going to say, hey, here's a guy who screwed up. Let's not do that. Another prime example, by the way, I'm going to be mentioning fear and some anxieties. John says yes. And I love this. I got this from, Bella said yes, it has. I got this from one of my favorite YouTube channels out there, Myron Golden. He's basically a business coach. And much like Gail says yes, it's basically a business information. It's Bible study disguised as business information. Anyway, he said there's a radical difference between fear and anxiety. I lost a lot of money because of FOMO. Hey, yes, absolutely. FOMO is number 2 on the list here. There's a difference between fear and anxiety. Fear is a natural response to impending danger. He says, I fear my bill collectors more than I fear not taking calculated risks.
Agreed.
As Mr. Producer says, he agrees also. That is, we all fear the bill collector. I love Myron Golden. Yes, absolutely. Everyone should be reading him. He says that there's a difference between fear and anxiety. Anxiety is just worrying over things that haven't happened yet. So what's the example? What's the difference? All right, so I played golf exactly once in my life. I, at the time, worked at a firm on Hilton Head. This was 1996, so I was 100 years old. And I'm sorry, that was a glitch in the audio just then. We played whatever. I guess it's 18 holes, right? I guess, is it always 18 holes? This was 18 holes. It felt like an eternity. Anyway, long story short, we get to the final green, and there's like a dozen golf balls just sitting there. And we're like playing in groups of 4, passing through. And there's all these golf balls sitting over there. What are they doing over there? Well, I walk over to where our team's ball was, right? It wasn't individual. And I see these 2 alligators. By the way, alligators, when they sun themselves, they do it with their mouths open. And there were these 2 alligators where all the golf balls were, including our own. I had a genuine fear of putting that golf ball. That was genuine fear. Now, public speaking, standing at the base of a ladder, looking at the roof that you have to climb, That is anxiety, which is worry over a situation that really is currently just in your head. Maybe you do fall off the roof, maybe you don't. Maybe you do lose money in that trade, maybe you don't. If anybody has read the book, you know that it starts with me driving to work in a cloud of gloom and doom because of the fear I had. At the time, I thought it was fear of my day's trading, which hadn't happened yet. It was all anxiety. So fear can absolutely prevent us from doing something. But again, is this fear or is this anxiety? When we are saying, hey, I'm not going to click the button. I've got my mouse, I've got my setup, everything's ready to go, but I can't click the button because I'm worried about what might happen. That's not fear. That's anxiety. If you're in a trade and, okay, this happened to me the opposite way. I'm sitting home one night and I go, ding, I was in a swing trade of oil. I got into it 2 hours early and boom, I hit TP 1, 2, and 3. What just happened? Well, it turns out a war had broken out between Israel and Iran and the price of oil shot up. Now, if I was the wrong way in that and I'm watching my money just disappear, that's fear, genuine fear of something that's happening in the moment. But this is after the fact. What I'm talking about is, has it ever stopped you? So, enough with the bad example. Esther, prime example of someone who did not let genuine fear. One could argue that she didn't know for sure, but she kind of knew for sure that if she went to the king and he said, hey, nope, she was dead. But she did not let that hold her back. Now, initially, she said, I'm gonna add something to Esther in just a second. Ananias, not that one, not the dead one. Well, I guess they're both dead. Esther did not let fear of what was going to happen, what could happen, the anxiety of what could happen, hold her back. Mordecai tells her to go talk to the king. She gathers her people around her. They fast, they pray, and she goes and she talks to the king. It worked out. She overcame her fear. She did not let it stop her. I love the story in Acts. Saul is on the way to Damascus. He gets blinded. He meets Jesus. He gets blinded. And God speaks to a fellow named Ananias. And I love how humorous these stories are in the Bible. Anyway, he tells Ananias, hey, Ananias, I want you to go pray for a brother Saul. He has repented, and he's blind. And he's praying. And Saul's like, Ananias is like, yeah, I'm not sure if you know who this guy is. I mean, just so we know that Saul, right? Because are you sure we're talking about? Anyway, he's a little hesitant, but he does it anyway. And I'm sure maybe he does it from behind because he's blind and he can't see who he is. Hey, Saul, your sight be restored. I'm out. Don't look at me. Anyway, fear can absolutely stop us. Trading is an amazing opportunity. I say it all the time. It's the most amazing opportunity for us to lift our families out of whatever financial situation we are in. And by the way, if you're watching me on replay right now, go to the little gear at the bottom, click it, and go to 0.75. Because when I get worked up, I tend to talk really fast. Sorry about that. My Mr. Producer's giving me the side eye, telling me to slow down. I shall. Fear of losing money. And by the way, that also not just keeps us out of a trade, but has anyone here ever done you look at your trade, you're up $50, you know, your take profit is out there at $500 and you're up 50. You're like, I don't want to lose this 50. So I'm gonna go ahead and exit now. I'm gonna declare victory and go home. Johnny says, please. Oh, please slow down. And if you don't know me by now,
good luck.
Yeah. Anyway, has anyone ever let fear of losing your profit? And I say your profit. I mean, it's just all floaty, imaginary until you click the button to exit. Has anyone ever let fear of the profit that you see? Here's a prime example. Let me finish it. Thoughts. The fear of letting the profit that you see on the screen disappear. I have been in trades before where you're like, oh, look at that. Wait, no, stop, exit, and then takes off. You letting fear. Well, yes, A, that's anxiety over what's happening, but B, that's also not having faith in your system, possibly. We're getting there. All right, next one. And Gail said this earlier. I believe Gail said this earlier. Yes, she did. Fear of missing out. We all hear about FOMO. And Lost Dad says, yes, and I have missed out on a lot more since I exited too early because of fear and low confidence in the trade. We're going to talk about that. Carol says she lost a lot of money because of FOMO. And I don't know whether, I don't know about any of you out there. I tend to beat myself up more for the profits that I missed out on more than the actual money that I lost, if that makes sense. Does anybody else like that? So like, if I'm in a trade and I lose $100, hits my stop loss, I'm out $100. Okay. But if I'm in a trade and I take my profit at 50, but I could have gotten 150. So again, I missed out on $100. I beat myself up so much more for the imaginary 100 I didn't get than the real 100 I did lose. And that just might be the, symptoms of a sick mind. Anyway, fear of missing out, which is, we all know what that is. That is chasing, that is jumping in late. Someone in one of the myriad of books, we probably all read this, that being late and being wrong are basically the same thing. Has anybody else out there ever had a trade setup happen and it went exactly the way you thought it happened, but it did it a day later? It did it after you were already, and like, oh, I just got in too early. Early is the same as wrong, essentially. But we have this, I liken it to a train, which is an odd example for someone from Mississippi because we don't have trains down here except for the ones that stop us through town, right? We don't ride the trains. I've ridden the subway once and it was a miserable experience. But imagine you're at the station and the train is sitting there where you can get on board. And the train ever so slightly starts to move. Well, you can get on board. And it's picking up speed to a walking speed. You can get on board. Just like after the stop loss. Yes, absolutely. But at some point, that train's going to be going too fast for you to safely get on board. And you can either say, this is the only train I will ever be able to catch for the rest of my life and risk it all to jump on board. Or you can say, you know what? There's probably going to be another train at some point here in front of me I can get onto safely. And that is fear of missing out. Fear of missing out is just say, is this the one? So many people I talked to, I had this oil trade when the war broke out. It was just pure luck on my part that it happened to luck. Okay. Setting aside, there's no such thing as luck. It was pure happenstance. It was no skill on my part that I happened to enter an oil trade along 2 hours before missiles started flying. But there were so many people that I knew who said, oh, I got out of that trade yesterday. Why didn't I wait an extra day? Because I knew that was going to happen. Those kinds of things, when you see that you did miss out, oftentimes reinforce the fear of missing out for the next time. Does that make sense? It's okay, no judgment zone. Well, that's great. This is a no judgment zone. We listen and we don't judge. What is that from? TikTok. Oh, fantastic. One of these days we'll be on TikTok. One of the joys of being in this business with my two sons who were in their early 20s, that was him, is this generational thing. And they're like, all right, Father, it's time to teach you about TikTok. I'm like, is that the thing you put in your mouth to make your breath smell good? Anyway. Biblical examples, fear of missing out. Saul. And again, one of those hilarious, if you think about what's going on, God tells Saul, go wipe everybody out. And Saul's like, fantastic, I'm going to go wipe everybody out, but let's keep the sheep and keep the gold and keep that dude over there. Speaking of Esther, I take offense at that. Speaking of Esther, has anyone ever realized that the king, Agag, that Saul spares the life of, that Haman is his descendant? And so Saul's blunder, intentional screw up, it comes back to bite them all later on. Anyway, Saul decides, hey, I'm not waiting on Samuel to show up. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sacrifice to God right here and now because I can't wait. I don't want to miss out on all the stuff that's happening around me. So he does his thing. Samuel shows up And so I was like, you won't believe what happened. It's an amazing day. We did all this stuff. And Sam was like, hey, what is this bleating of sheep that I hear? In other words, you were told to kill everybody. Don't question. You're supposed to do it. Why do I still hear sheep? Oh, you've sacrificed to God without me. Yeah, well, there goes your kingdom. Conversely, David in 1 Samuel, this is only about 4 or 5 chapters later, 17, didn't rush into battle out of pride or fear of missing the moment. He waited on God's timing. And timing is everything in the market, right? Timing is that we hear about that all the time. The investor class, I don't want to use that term. Those out there who are investors have a phrase that I hear over and over again. By the way, in about 6 months, I'm going to have an interesting nugget to give all of you that I'm testing out myself now in investing. The fellow I'm listening to said this last week. Hey, it's not about timing the market. It's about time in the market, because no one can time the market. Well, that's what we traders try to do, is time the market. Timing is critical. But we have to recognize that timing. One of the systems that I've got, an algorithm, an automated system, it basically gives the setup a certain period of time and then says, all right, time has expired. Doesn't matter if this trade will work out a month from now. We're not going to sit here and wait on it. Timing is everything. We're not going to, and if I cancel the setup right now, and 2 hours from now, it would have happened. I don't beat myself up about it. I don't let the fear of what could happen drive me now. And honestly, it's all up here, right? We're inventing things in our heads. Oh my goodness. Have any of you ever? Okay. I sincerely hope that everyone out there watching, even though those on replay are not like, this guy's nuts. Has anybody ever out there had a conversation in your head with someone else? And you think, okay, I would say this, and then they would say that, and I would say this, and they would say, back and forth. And then you get mad at them in your head for a conversation that's not real, didn't happen, it's all up here. Is that just me? I know Johnny knows what I'm talking about, hopefully. That's essentially what, okay, that was my son. So his insanity might be hereditary. That's what FOMO is. It is imagining what might happen. And reacting to it. So here's another one. This one plays the pivotal role in what we're going to talk about Wednesday night. Men versus women. That's all I'm going to say. The fear of being wrong. Avoiding pulling the trigger. I shouldn't use that term on Facebook. Avoiding executing. I shouldn't use that term on Facebook. Avoiding clicking the sell or buy button based on, that's God. Absolutely. Good. It's even better. That's good. Avoiding entering the trade or entering that setup you have because you fear that you look foolish. Here is a prime example, and I'm just going to be laying my soul bare for you tonight. So, I remember to this day where I was. Mr. Producer was interviewing at a shipyard at the time. We were in a hotel room, and I entered a Euro-Swiss trade. We were in a hotel, so my routine was a little backwards. Normally, I always check the news because I never want to trade. I'm a swing trader. I never want to hold a trade when a Bank of, what does that mean? Bank of England, Reserve Bank of Australia, Bank of Japan, that kind of thing. I never want to be holding a trade when a Bank of makes an interest rate announcement. So I entered Euro Swiss, or possibly US Swiss. It was a Swiss trade. Short, long, it doesn't matter. I entered a Euro Swiss trade, and 2 minutes later, I'm like, oh, idiot, I forgot to check the news. I checked the news. Lo and behold, the Swiss National Bank has an interest rate announcement in 9 hours. And I think, well, I looked at my trade, and I was down 2 pips. 2 pips. And on the trade I was doing, it was $2, something like that. 50 cents of some laughably small number. What's that? Well, I don't want to exit the trade now and get a loss in, I have as a statistic. Because I'm afraid of being wrong. I'm afraid of how it will look. Here's the evidence of a sick mind. No one else was looking at this. There was not a soul on earth who would look at the chart and realize I had a loss that day, even though it was a 2-pip loss. Who was I trying to impress? Who was I worried about looking foolish in front of by proving that I was wrong and having a 2-pip minuscule loss? But I didn't want to screw up my statistics because I wanted, well, again, if you've read the book, it's all about my pride, and it's a whole big thing. But this idea that we're afraid of being wrong. And to be honest, I kind of think some of that is where revenge trading comes into it. Now, I'm going to separate, just for the purposes of this discussion, I'm going to separate revenge trading and overtrading. I tend to think of overtrading as being a result of 10 feet tall and bulletproof, which is the worst emotion anyone can experience in trading. I'd much rather have fear than I can't lose, because fear will keep you out of a trade. 10 feet tall and bulletproof will make you lose everything. And if you're trading on margin, it could make you lose twice everything. Anyway, but revenge trading for me is one of those that say, all right, this thing happened to me, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to somehow erase what I did by real quick getting money back from that person, right? That whatever it was. And if I can undo this thing that happened to me. Oh yeah, revenge trading, lost money there too. Back during my stock trading days, there's a trucking company that has a chess piece as their logo. Knight, maybe? It's like a Knight Transportation. Every time I get passed by a Knight Transportation truck, I think they owe me money because I lost money in the stock market on one of theirs doing a day trade. And it's been 20 years. Oh my goodness, it's been 20 years. Now I feel old. Thank you, son. But the point is, this kernel of revenge trading is still in there. But somehow we think that if we can just get the money back quickly, especially get it back quickly from the one who took it from us, as if Knight Transport was out there waiting, going, wait, no, okay, now Pepper's in. Screw him. Anyway, we think that if we can possibly get the money back quickly, that it will erase the mistake we made, that it won't count. Oh, okay, yeah, I lost $100, but 5 minutes later, I made $105. So it doesn't matter. The thing that happened to me doesn't, I can by myself erase my sin. That's probably an entire topic in and of itself. But fear of being wrong, for me at least, was rooted in pride, and just in a bizarre way, because, like, again, who's watching what I'm doing? I can't even. And we're going to talk about that. Spoiler alert: why this arena, women are less emotional than men. Anyway, we're going to talk about that Wednesday night. Some biblical parallels here, and this one was really bizarre. I don't know how many of you have come across this. In Peter, in Galatians, Peter was actually reprimanded by Paul because Peter separated himself from the Gentiles to go over here and eat, which is kind of odd, given the whole sheet from heaven and the centurion and the eat the shrimp and the crawfish. By the way, when they say crawling things, I'm convinced that was the very first pot of gumbo. The God invented gumbo right then and there. My son just went off into gumbo land. Oh, anyway, and Peter was, he didn't want to appear wrong, and Paul called him out for it. Now, I don't know if, these last 2,000 years, Peter and Paul have been, and Mary have been up there discussing it. Peter kind of gave into that. Daniel, by the way, obviously, Daniel did not at all care about being wrong. Gail says, I'm sorry, I need to go. I want to catch this on replay. Fantastic, Gail. Thank you for being here. Gail, hey, if you want to go to, click the link in the description, send us your email. We'll add you to all the stuff if you're not already. Daniel is the one that really jumps out at me because he knew exactly, Daniel and his three friends. Now, most people reference them as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I try my best to call them Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, which were their Jewish names, not their Babylonian names. Anyway, Um, fear of being wrong. So Daniel was up in his room praying. People could see him through the roof, through the window. The three other guys, there was a sea of humanity. Everybody bows down except for these three guys who are standing up like, I think they know. Yeah, I think they can tell it's that we're not. Yep. Look, they're pointing at us. Yeah, they saw it. And of course, Nebuchadnezzar is like, yeah, you guys must not have heard it. Let me tell you what's going to happen again. Also a funny story. But again, fear of being wrong can lead us down the wrong path. And there's plenty of examples of not working. Again, what is it we are afraid of? What is the word? What's the anxiety? For me, fear. It's pride. Somebody says, what type of healing needs to take place, you think, when losing so bad, you over leverage? Well, that's a good question. And it's a two-part answer. Part B, which is the practical application, would be simply, no matter what your account is, you don't have to use the leverage. And I would say, hey, give yourself a period of time where you don't trade with that leverage. Does that make sense? So let's say you've, with Owanda, I use Owanda as a prime example. They're a great firm here. I say great. They're ones that I've used. 50 to 1. Well, you don't have to use it. Do go 1 to 1. If you got $100, risk the $100 and not 5,000. As far as the healing that needs to place, so that you have to have an honest conversation with what was the motivation that drove me to do that? Was it fear? Was it pride? Was it greed? Was it whatever? It's not just, I did this thing. You really have to have an honest conversation with God. Spoiler alert, you're not going to enjoy it. Again, the book comes from me having a conversation with God on the way to work, and I didn't enjoy a single minute of it. Turns out you can't trick God by telling him things that aren't true, because he knows what is true. But it started, and look, reach out to us. Sonny, there's a link in the description for a thing you can click on. We can do a one-on-one. I'd be happy to talk to you. You had to ask a question, or we just rant and rave. I'm happy here to do that for you. This one was interesting when I started looking at it. Fear of letting, we talk about fear of being wrong and fear of letting others down. That's kind of a corollary, kind of a similar one. A lot of us, probably most of us, think that, or we're doing this. We'll tell other people, and it could very well be true, that we are doing this for our families. And so we put this pressure on ourselves that even though our families, A, might not know what we're doing, B, might not understand, or C, might not care. Johnny says they didn't find out about being right until walking into the furnace, then they had to see it through. That is true. I do love the bit where they say, hey, look, our God can save us. He might not. Even if he doesn't, we ain't doing it. I'm not going to say that it was the Aramaic version of screw you, Nebuchadnezzar. I'm not going to say that. So back to the idea of I guess we're going to find out eventually one day. You can ask that guy, hey, how did you phrase that? Anyway, this idea of letting others down. One of the dangers that's one of the dangers that we have to look out for is self-imposed pressure, as opposed to outside pressure. I've taken prop firm challenges before that give you a time limit. Well, that's pressure that's being applied to me in my trading from somewhere else. But this idea of I need to impress other people, or I need to provide for other people, or I come into it with this idea of trading is going to be this. I have in my mind this goal, this idea, this outcome, and I'm going to hold myself to that standard. And if I don't meet this standard that I've created, I'm letting other people down. And this is kind of the opposite of the initial fear of losing money. Fear of letting others down might lead you to reaching for a trade that you shouldn't take. It might lead you to be more prone to fear of missing out. Say, look, I need to pay for braces, and my daughter is going to get married in a few years. She's of that age. I need to start saving up money for a wedding. I don't want to let her down. Sonny says, great point. I have been through the same thing, still not consistently profitable. Sonny, consistency is simply doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same result. He says, makes sense. One more question. How do you find a true edge strategy in a market full of false gurus? Do you offer edge as well? We offer to help you find it. I've got strategies, but no two people are ever going to trade the same strategy the same way. I got some things you can try out. But until you do it for yourself and internalize it, you're never going to trust it. I feel like every day I wake up playing whack-a-mole with social media myths and misconceptions about trading. Just sign up for my trade service, and you'll have a Lamborghini to lean in front of, like I have a Lamborghini to lean in front of, because I'm the valet, and this guy's inside the restaurant eating lunch. Anyway, fear of letting others down is we've got somebody that we know of that is in the beginning stages of putting pressure on themselves because they have family to take care of, and that can drive you to do things. Let's just say this: trading is trading at its best. Successful trading is a slow, methodical, quite boring process. Anything that makes you apply emotion or change your normal way of trading is going to derail you. Johnny says, I'm still trying to switch over from the dark side. I'll make it one day. Jarrett. Sorry. That was did a good job there. Here's one that I wasn't expecting in my research. Oh, by the way, examples of fear of letting others down. Aaron and the golden calf. Yeah, or possibly Pontius Pilate. Both of those guys kind of I would say peer pressure, but in Pontius Pilate's case, they weren't peers. They were just a mob of people. And he had Rome behind him. He could have done anything. He could have said, no, I ain't doing it. Deal with it. I'm Rome, you're not. Aaron, though, bless his heart, Aaron should have known better. But he gave in to the fear of not letting them down, but the fear of what they wanted him to do. A good one, though, and I love this. I spent Nehemiah. And by the way, the next book, which comes out in January, is on Nehemiah and how to build your trade plan using Nehemiah's plan to build a wall. Whilst Nehemiah is building the wall, first things first, the two people that were attacking him, Sanballat and his sidekick, Tobias, tried a direct approach, couldn't make it happen. Then they tried to distract him. And he's like, nope, build the wall. Hey, meet us up here. Nope, build the wall. Hey, do this. Nope, build the wall. And he just kept his laser focus on what he was doing. And he would not, because he knew what his mission was. And he would not let their distraction, and they were trying to distract him within his calling. Hey, God wants you to do this thing. Come meet us in the temple, and we'll discuss this mission from God that you're on. And he's not letting that dissuade him. Whereas Aaron holds up a golden calf and says, here's your God that brought you out of Egypt. All while there's a mountain behind them with lightning and the voice of God thundering, and they're like, pay no attention to. Anyway, I'm not going to be harsh. One day I'll have to talk to Aaron, and I'll have to apologize for my judgment. Fear of missing God's will. Now that was fear of letting others down. Fear of missing God's will. Good biblical example is Gideon. Now, Gideon obeyed, but man, did Gideon push it, in my opinion, with God. Has anybody out there ever heard of the phrase in Christian parlance, putting out a fleece? I'm going to ask for yeses or nos in the pray about a fleece, put out a fleece, prayer fleece, those two concepts together. Let me know yes or no if you've heard that concept. Fear of missing God's will, second guessing every trade decision, feeling paralyzed, waiting for the perfect sign, and never committing to a strategy. We got a yes and we got a no. So God sends an angel to Gideon, and Gideon, the angel says, welcome or hello, mighty man of valor. And Gideon's like, who are you talking to? I'm of the smallest family, and I'm the smallest dude, the smallest clan. I'm nobody. He says, hey, go attack this army. And he's like, can we talk about this? So he takes the fleece. He says, God, look, I hear this is from you. I can tell because there's an angel. Um, almost every time an angel shows up, by the way, to deliver a message, the first thing he says is, don't freak out. Mary is the only one that I can find that where they didn't immediately freak out, probably because of the difference between the angels. You ever read the description of what a cherubim looks like? I would freak out too. Anyway, Gideon says to the angel, hey, okay, I hear what you're saying. You want me to do this thing. And you're an angel. Obviously, you came from God. I get that. And I know God wants me to do this. But hey, can I ask for some confirmation just to prove this is God? Because, you know, the angelic being isn't enough. I'm going to take a fleece, all right? I've sheared my sheep today. I got me a full fleece. I'm going to stick it out on the ground. Tomorrow morning, I want everything else around it to be dry and the fleece be soaking wet. It does it, and it happens. So he's miraculous, right? He had an angel deliver the message to him. He's had this rather odd request fulfilled by God. There's a fleece soaking wet, ground around it is dry. Mary, I believe, was a super saint. But Baptists, we're not allowed to talk about Mary. Unless, of course, it's Peter, Paul, and Mary, like I mentioned before, with the whole Puff the Magic Dragon thing. So those two things aren't enough for Gideon. So he goes, God, look, okay, just one more. Tomorrow, I want to put this fleece out, and I want the fleece to be bone dry and everything else around it to be wet. And God doesn't smite him for his indecision, but he fulfills his request. So that's what putting out a fleece is. And a lot of people think, well, I'm going to put out a fleece. Well, the story from Gideon is not one of this is how you get God to confirm from God that God is telling you what he wants you to do. When God tells you what he wants you to do, you should just do it. But this is one of those, I don't know if he was afraid of missing God's will or if he was just afraid. Joshua, on the other hand, Moses dies. Joshua's like, I guess I'm it. So let's go. The amazing thing, God tells him, hey, and by the way, this is one of those, go read Joshua chapter 1. We've all heard that the Bible says 365 times, fear not, do not be afraid. Some version of don't be afraid. Joshua chapter, a whole bunch of them. I did a talk on it here not too long ago. And God's like, I'm going to be with you. Fear not, I'll be with you. Fear not, I'll be with you. He says, every single place you go will be your home. Every time the foot of your people step, whatever, that's their homeland. And Joshua says, okay, you said it, I'm going to do it. And he just acts on it. So a few scriptures that I'm going to leave you with. I'll leave you as if I can wrap up in 2 minutes. 2 Timothy 1:7. For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. That's an ESV. And that is absolutely true. God did not give us a spirit of fear. So by the way, when you are being overwhelmed with a spirit of fear, first things first, know for certain that does not come from God. Conviction comes from God. The difference between conviction and guilt, right? You did a thing you shouldn't have done. The Holy Spirit convicts you. You repent. Done. After that, every single bit of guilt is not from God, right? The same thing with fear. God doesn't say, hey, he doesn't overwhelm you with fear. When God tells you to do something, he understands that we're weak, but he doesn't give us fear to tag along with it. Which is why I love, by the way, Joshua 1. Because God says, fear not. Why? Because I am with you. He's like, I will never leave you nor forsake you. You can avoid the fear because here I am. Isaiah. Again, 41:10. Fear not, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. Well, he says the same thing over and over again. Because we need it over and over again. And then Psalms 56 says, when I'm afraid, I put my trust in you. Johnny says, I think Mary is very significant, even if I identify as a Baptist. Johnny, you're going to get me canceled. The Catholics are going to show up with pitchforks, and the Catholics are going to come for me. So, what am I trying to say? I had this mental image. If anybody doesn't know or doesn't have kids his age, you might not be familiar with one of the very first VeggieTales to ever come out, which was "Where is God When I'm Scared?" And the fantastic song, "God is bigger than the boogeyman." Well, God is bigger than the NQ. God is bigger than the oil market. God is bigger than Trump's tweets. God is bigger than any fear that you could possibly have in trading. And if God has given you this calling, let's just call it a calling. We'll deal with that a whole other time. Sounds like Pepper has good sound doctrine. Pepper just reads this and does what it says. I had a preacher one time tell me, actually it was in a group, and someone in the group stood up and said, hey, I'm a new Christian. I am struggling to understand some of the things that I've read. And the preacher's like, okay, I hear you. Fantastic. Obey the parts you do understand and let God take care of the rest. Sound advice. And especially this. If God has given you this, God does not call the equipped. This is not scripture. This is cliche, t-shirt stuff. God does not call the equipped. He equips the called. All right. Gideon absolutely did not feel like he was up for the task, but God allowed him to be up for the task. There is a fantastic story. My absolute favorite, one of my absolute favorite stories is 2 Chronicles 20. And this is Jehoshaphat or Hezekiah. I think it's Jehoshaphat. Stand and watch, right? This is that thing. So there's this giant army coming against them. 100,000 people, like 3 separate armies. And 2012, they're praying to God. Oh God, will you not judge them? For we have no, and by the way, Sonny, I believe it was Sonny asked this question. This is the answer to your question. Will you not judge them? 2 Chronicles 20:12. For we have no power over this great multitude, nor do we know what to do. But our eyes are on you. And God tells them, hey, look, stand and watch. The battle is not yours. And they send a guy out to check on the oncoming army, and they're all dead. 100% of the entire army is dead, which I have always had the immediate question, who killed the last guy? All right. At some point, somebody's got to be left over. Who killed the last guy? Maybe he died from his wounds. Anyway, that is the answer. I don't know what to do. He uses the rags. That's right. He, oh gosh, what's the name of the fellow who preached through the entire Bible on radio from the 50s and 60s? Vernon. J. Vernon McGee would reference himself as he's just an old clay pot that God fills up and it overflows. And I think that for those of us who feel called to trading, to bless our families with, and allow others to see Matthew, whatever, Jesus says, so let your light shine before men that they see your good works and give glory to the Father. That's what we're doing here. Fear is a constant companion because Satan wants to derail that, right? Satan absolutely does not want others looking at us and being pointed to God. Does not want that to happen. So he's going to use whatever he can. And fear is one of the, honestly, sadly, easiest bullets in his gun. And it starts with that. It starts with that one question, right? So you get your setup. Everything looks great. Perfect setup. You've been waiting for this all day long, all week long, whatever. Perfect setup. And your finger is poised over the button. And suddenly you hear this. Did God really say you should be doing this? Or maybe you should wait and see what happens. Does your system really work all that well? I mean, you just had this immediate. Has anyone ever had that happen to them? Everything says go. And suddenly there's this voice that says, you think maybe I shouldn't? I have been there so many times. That is what the enemy is using to stop us, and it absolutely is not from God. So how do we combat that? Fear not, for I am with you. We stop in the moment and say, Father, help. Don't do it. Stop it. Yeah, fear, greed, and anxiousness, no confidence at all. They're all wrapped up in the same thing. Doubt leads to discouragement, which leads to quitting. So here's my recommendation. Some of us in the Discord channel, we're going through our August challenge, which is there are 31 days in August. There are 31 chapters of Proverbs. Read the entire chapter of Proverbs for that day, like today's the 10th, so read chapter 10 before you trade. And don't go reading it and say, all right, there's got to be a trading verse. No. Just clear your mind, fill it with the word of God for I looked at it, right? And the longest proverb still only takes about 3 minutes to read, 3 to 5 minutes, even if you're a really slow reader. Take 5 minutes, read this, and then do a prayer, the simple prayer from 2 Chronicles 20:12. Leave out the bit about judging the army. I have no power against this great multitude, right? BlackRock. And what are the three companies that own everything? BlackRock, State Street Group, and I think it's Vanguard. Right? I have no power against Vanguard. I have no power against BlackRock. Nor do I know what to do, but my odds are on you. Father, help me in the next hour, the next 15 minutes, in the next whatever, however long it is that you trade. Help me to just do what I know I'm supposed to do without fear. That's it. And then you go out and do what you know you're supposed to do. And do that every single day for the entire month of August. Read one chapter of Proverbs, pray one simple prayer. What's the thing from TikTok? Father, help. Father, help. That's all you got to do. Look, Peter is drowning. Says he begins to sink. I would have thought sinking is an either-or situation, but he begins to sink, and he just says, help. He does not pray anything other than help. And it says immediately, Jesus was not right there because Peter was walking towards him. Right? Peter didn't wait till he was 2 feet away to sink. Jesus was there immediately. And all he said was help. So clear your mind, fill your mind with Proverbs, and then pray that one simple prayer. Totally dependent on him, that will get you canceled. Yes, it will. We have done I think it was 2 weeks ago, the traders, look at the Lord's Prayer, which is not the Lord's Prayer, it's the model prayer. We have a trader's model prayer. You pray that also. That is how you overcome all of these aspects of fear. And honestly, and sadly, I would love to be able to tell you, hey guys, you're going to do this and you're going to overcome it and it won't be a problem anymore. It is ongoing. I would love to be able to say that at some point, fear will be completely gone from your trading. The same way I would love to say that fear will be completely gone from living life here on planet Earth as a Christian, from being a parent, from being a husband, from being a whatever. Until on this side of eternity, it's going to be here forever. So the only way out is through. And the thing I love, I'll end with this. David in Psalm 23 says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And then again, there's the difference between anxiety and fear. It wasn't I walk through the valley of death. It's the valley of the shadow of death. In other words, it wasn't real. I will fear no evil, for you are with me. And if you think about what a valley is, right? A valley is a low spot between two mountains. And what are you doing when you're in a valley? Well, you can either stop walking completely, you can climb up, straight up either side, or you can just keep going through. And that is what we're doing. The only way out is through. But he feared nothing because God was with him. So that's our challenge for the month of August. Prepare your mind ahead of time. Don't walk into any situation unprepared. Put on the full armor of God. That'll be a whole other one. All right, so programming note, Wednesday night, I promised you earlier, we are going to be talking about the difference between men and women as traders and answering the question, who is the better trader, men or women? Who is the more emotional or less emotional trader? And we're going to do this obviously from a Christian perspective. Why are we doing this? Well, number one, I've been chastised a lot recently for the whole, why are you only talking to fathers? What about us moms? There's that, so I'm sorry. But everyone is going to learn something, especially us men are going to learn something very important from this discussion, because there is something that in a talk with my wife, who knows nothing and cares nothing about trading, poured forth a nugget that I'm like, oh, that's the answer. That's why I screw myself over so many times in my trading. And she is immune to it. As a woman, she is absolutely immune to it and would make a much better trader than me as a result. So join us Wednesday night at 6. Well, hang on. Sunday nights at 5, Wednesday nights at 6. Huh? We're going to start switching that around. At some point, they'll both be 5. We got a class starting September 1st. Our family-friendly trading, where we help you learn how to. Oh, my camera does not like me pointing at it. Hands down. Where we'll teach you how to build a system for yourself and stand on your own. Anyway, that starts September 1st, and that might be at 6 in the evenings. We're still working the kinks out on the timing there. But anyway, this Wednesday night at 6 Central, we will be talking about, as Christian traders, what can we learn from the men and what can we learn from the women? And with that, guys, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Johnny, for keeping me on topic. I'll see y'all next time. What's the last comment? See number 1 next to it.